So our first step when we are using the pro-pro chart to solve a problem is to articulate the model. This is a really important step to make sure that everybody at the table has the exact same understanding of what these models are. I would like you to use the chart paper there and divide it in half and put model A and model B on there, and then describe what the models look like. We don't want to like or dislike one model over the other, so we're going to try to describe it using non-biased language. And I want to start with some ideas from model A, whole school. Tell me one thing that a whole school model for icebreakers look like. Yes?
Well, a lot of the conversations were very shallow. When we were doing the icebreakers in the cafeteria, it was very basic information we were telling each other.
Okay, yeah.
What is structure?
Structure, interesting. Tell me more about that.
We had a sheet of questions that you were supposed to ask.
So you were given very specific questions. Tell me about in class. What would that look like and sound like? Tristan?
It was more in depth.
Tell me more about that.
Like you asked more like in-depth questions like why or what would you do, stuff like that, instead of just yes or no questions.
Got it. So why questions? More. Yes, Julia.
Like create a connection with the teacher as well.
Interesting. Now that we've got our two models really beautifully articulated, we have to look at these two models and think about who is it that would be affected by us changing these models. So we want to think of three stakeholders that are interested in how these models function. So if we were thinking about stakeholders, who would you say this model matters to? Aswati.
Students.
Okay, so students, number one. Jot down on the page, just students. Another stakeholder, who would you say? Tristan. Parents. Okay, interesting. Parents. Parents would be interested in this. Anybody else? Scott. Teachers. Our next step after this, we've determined our stakeholders, is to think from the stakeholders' perspective, why would they like each of these models? And this is a really interesting step. To really understand how the models work and how they function, we have to think from three different perspectives, why each perspective would love the model. So here's your task. On a new piece of chart paper, I would like you to put model A and model B. And I want you to set up three columns for the three stakeholders. What I want you to do is use these benefit bubbles to come up with the benefits from the three stakeholders' perspectives. And these bubbles are kind of cool because what it does is it allows you to describe what the model gives you and how the model gives it to you. So it's what's the benefit, and then the word I want to use is what's the mechanism for that benefit to happen. Because it helps us go deeper into understanding why a model works so that we can pull the best out of it to integrate it into something that's maybe never been seen before. So I want you to take three of these bubbles for each of the stakeholders, 3, 3, 3 for the one model, and 3, 3, and 3 for the other, and write right on here, what's my benefit, and how do we get it from this model?
Okay, so it gives me the opportunity
to understand how my students learn.
Yeah, it should have been, it gives me the opportunity to know how to teach the class better because I can understand how they learn.
Your kid says, hey, there are these icebreaker activities at school. I guess maybe you would think that the school is you think it's a good school because they're putting an effort towards trying to get you to come together. So you think
I like that this model gives.
You think that the school has a good sense of community?
Yeah, I think
so you think it's a good school?
It's actually a pretty difficult task to name what a benefit of a model is and then think about the mechanism within the model that provides the benefit. And so you'll see them taking time to think through what the answers to that question are, building on each other's ideas, they're questioning what they're writing down. And I think the key point here is that you have to take time to go deeper into understanding why a model works, and that's okay.
We're building on each other's ideas, so when someone else says something, then someone else will come in and add on to that to make the idea better and to expand our thinking.
So, sometimes when someone's stuck somewhere, the other person can just help them out and continue their train of thought.
Yeah, to clarify what you mean and bounce ideas off each other.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anywhere you're getting stuck here? What do you find hard about this?
I really don't like doing the parents column because firstly, we're not parents, so it's hard to understand how they might think of you and how
They're indirect from the school.
yeah.
So although they're a stakeholder, they're not right in the school. Nevertheless, I bet you know how your parents think very well. I bet you do. So that's it. You're role playing a little bit when you're doing this, aren't you? So it's about taking on the role and imagining why would that person love this model. So that's good. It's asking for a lot of creativity, isn't it? And one more question. When you're figuring out the mechanism, tell me how that's working.
So you really have to think, why would you get this? And then you have to go deeper, like, how did you come to this? How did this happen? What really started it?
Perfect. And then yet, are you going back to the model and looking into the model more deeply? Awesome. Great work. Thanks, guys. So I'm wondering about, in a model, and just tell me which model you're talking about, what was one benefit that surprised you? Jade.
You really get a sense of the entire school community. So it's not just interacting with the grade 9s, you get to interact with the other students, you get to interact with older students and other teachers so that you better understand what this whole school is about.
Interesting.
For Model B, I like that this, for teachers, I like that this model gives me more involvement in the planning process because it allows me to learn about my students and teachers. It teaches me how I can better accommodate their learning skills.
And how does this model let that happen? Tell me more.
Because in the class, the teacher can see how the students are all interacting, and so it'll help them understand how people interact and learn and things.
Did you find that you're like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't fast, this takes time to think through? And that's really important because when you're going deep into understanding something and when you're collaborating in a very deep way, it takes time to think through why something works and to listen to each other and build on each other's ideas and leverage each other's ideas so that what you write on the page is more specific and more precise. And that will help you grapple with complexity. So that was amazing work. Good job.